Good morning, everyone. I have to say I'm a little embarrassed. I'm also from France, but I don't sound anything like that guy. So to give you two different examples of what a Frenchman can sound like, Gilles, you've been here for a day. Hopefully those of you that are here, you've been on the show floor, you've been listening to vendors. You've been told all you need to do is buy a product or buy some technology, something that only I can do. The other people in this hall can't do it. I don't want to talk about any of that. What I want to talk about is a mindset and a philosophy, something that you should have in place long before you ever consider buying a technology. Because just buying technology, buying boxes, is not going to solve the problem. And to set that up, what I wanted to do was set a challenge that had certain characteristics to it that could carry over into what I'm going to talk about. And so I thought, okay, a long-distance drive. And I thought, what is the longest that I could think of, a longest-distance drive, and still remain within the confines of what we might consider Europe? So I said, okay, Lisbon to Vladivostok. Now, I don't even know if it's possible, but Google gave me a route over 13,000 kilometers. Has anybody ever done this? Okay, take a look at some of the numbers. 13,000 kilometers, and they say 154 hours. So just doing simple math, that takes over 19 days to get from your starting point to your destination. Now, I've driven San Francisco to New York. That's about a third of this distance. And I made that drive over 30 years ago, and the fact that I still remember every excruciating day of that drive tells you the impact of something like that that remains on you. But how do you approach something like this, a challenge? You just say, I'm going to go, pack a bag, get my GPS. When I did it, there were no GPSs, so I had to use a map and hope for the best. Now, doing it from San Francisco to New York, it's a little bit different. A single country. Didn't have to worry about passports, visas, currency, or anything like that. Or do I plan? And do I plan, and do I plan some more? And after answering the first question, why would I want to do this in the first place, I make sure that I'm prepared for whatever happens during that trip as best as I can. That same mentality applies when you're planning a network. You can improvise it, and unfortunately that photo looks like my first attempt years ago of installing a large-scale environment. Cables all over the place. And I think that was the clue to me that perhaps my choice as a network engineer was not quite the right career choice for me. And I quickly went into sales and marketing afterwards. I'm happy to say that no, that's not the norm. That the concept of plan some more still applies. And we get data centers, we get environments like this that are well structured, clean. And when something does go bad, you have the ability to quickly get in there and replace the failed component. So my question is, and as a security professional, why don't I see the same thing in security planning? Why is it that I don't see the same approach to say, build a strategy, understand all the factors, and then react accordingly? More important, be proactive about it. Why does security all too often look like this? Now, I'm exaggerating, of course. But in my career as a security professional, I do see this more and more. So the question is why? Why is it best practices we apply in other areas don't apply here? So the question is, what is your criteria? What is most important for you when you're looking at network security? Is it compliance? Now, compliance may very well be a major objective depending upon what industry you're in. But is that where you stop? Or do you go a little bit further and look at some analysis? What has happened in the past? What is the probability of those attacks happening to me now? And then can I plan? Can I then invest in the right technology to go ahead and prevent what has happened in the past from occurring today? Or are you the guy that wants the best of everything? Do you want the best product in the market, regardless of the vendor, and you'll take products from different vendors and bring them together into your network? Those are the three approaches that we're seeing, the three mindsets that we're seeing that are most dominant in the market today. The problem is, none of those approaches really address the problem that we have to deal with today. So that brings us to the first issue. Compliance is not security. While compliance may be necessary for your particular business, ticking boxes and going to what is a relatively generic set of requirements just doesn't meet the needs that you're going to have. And doing risk analysis, risk management, it's backward looking. It's not taking into account what's happening today and what might happen in the future. And while nobody can predict the future, you should always be thinking about what might happen. And then finally, I'll buy the best product. You can call it legacy solution, you can call it point solutions, call it what you will. But the problem is, while each individual product may work as advertised, a product from vendor A and vendor B were never designed to work together. So the idea of bringing them together into a cohesive environment is left up to you. And as soon as that happens, trying to meld different products together into a single solution, what you have is a recipe for complexity. And where there's complexity, there's chance of human error. And so while you can make the things communicate, or maybe you can have connectivity through your network, you don't have what I call security continuity. You've made things work, but they're not working the way they should be based on what we're continuing to see in the marketplace. The second issue is the definition of a network has changed. Beginning with the internet and now going on to cloud technology, there are more and more ways of getting into a network. If we look at all the different clouds, and in speaking with people, I was at an event recently in London, and one of these was a large financial organization. They said they finally did an audit, and they had over 1,000 cloud applications being used in their network, some of which were authorized, some of which were unauthorized. All of that represents a liability. Also, the onslaught of wireless technology. We've come to rely on it. We expect it as being part of an everyday thing. But that advantage of wireless is also a potential open door for a hacker. So the end result is, with all of these ways getting into the network, once you're in, once the hacker has found the data that it's targeted, there are more ways to get that data out of the network. So this idea that we can put our arms around the network is gone. That's why we say the network perimeter has dissolved. And then finally, I know people in other areas, maybe yourselves, are making that decision. Where's my my balance point between security and performance? I still talk to a lot of prospects that say security is a hindrance to my business, and I'm prepared to take the risk of minimizing my security to get maximum performance out of the network, out of its applications. They say that until their company is the next major headline. So I know all three of these issues are coming into play and forcing you to make decisions, maybe decisions you not necessarily want to make. The end result is strategies and techniques that worked in the past don't work any longer. Now, these are just three of some of the major data breaches. Obviously, I didn't include Yahoo, which happened last week, and let that one settle down because I don't have enough information on it. But to take a look at this, everybody should be familiar. Hi, guys. Too scared to come down here on the main floor? The Ukraine power grid. Compelling story I read about this, that the operator actually was sitting watching his console when the hacker broke in and took control of his system and changed passwords to keep him from logging back in again. And he watched as the grid was successively being shut down to eventually, to what, over 200,000 subscribers were out of power because of it. Now, ransomware, not any one incident, but a trend. Security companies, Fortinet included, have been predicting this for a while, and it looks like the end of last year, coming into this year, is now it's happening. Companies are being hit with it over and over again. And then finally, SWIFT, the financial banking network. Now, let me be clear about this. It is not the SWIFT network itself that's being hacked, but it's the member banks who attach to the SWIFT network to do their transfers. That's where the attacks are taking place. And from what I've been able to tell, looking at research, it's the same group of cyber criminals that launched a major banking attack last year, the thing called Carbonac. So they're using the same technology, the same techniques for a different target. So this is only the tip of the iceberg, if you will, of the issues that we're trying to deal with, old ways of thinking. And to take all of that and add to it yet another challenge, you're dealing with those issues. You're dealing with technology decisions that were made several years ago and that you can't do anything about. So you have to deal with it. Fine. But are you prepared to deal at the same time with the future trends? The top of those trends is cloud. The paradox here is that cloud is the major enabler for business. We're hearing that all over the place. But what about security? Do you abdicate your responsibility for security by going to cloud technology? If you use Amazon or Microsoft or any of the other cloud providers, or using applications like Salesforce, Office 365, is it the other guy's responsibility? So while business is rushing to adopt cloud technology, the paradox is at the same time, security is one of the biggest obstacles to the adoption of cloud technology. The other one, and I feel like I'm almost legally obliged to mention this, is IoT. Is your network, if you're exploring this, is your network prepared for the onslaught of hundreds or thousands of these dumb devices? Because in IoT, there are three parameters: speed, cost, and security, but you can only have two. So security goes off the table very quickly. These devices that are attaching to your network, and I'm speaking in generalities, of course, are designed to be fast and cheap, short life cycles, no upgrades, no what we call headless connections, that there is nothing intelligent in there. It's just a way of connecting something to the network. So not only are you dealing with a performance factor, but you're also dealing with a security liability. And finally, I mean, here you have security professionals in the room, but are you having trouble finding new people? It's one of these things. I remember a Dilbert cartoon from years ago where the concept of a webmaster had only been around for a couple of years. And Wally, Dilbert's little friend, was applying for a job as a webmaster, and to make sure he didn't get it, they said you had to have 10 years of webmaster experience. So it just brings up the paradox that you need greater capabilities to secure your network, but you can't find the people with those capabilities. So it's all of these together, those legacy issues, these future trends that are affecting how, hopefully, you're looking at how to secure the network. And as I said in the beginning, it's not about technology. It's not about a single product. It never will be. It starts with, however, changing your mindset. Changing your mindset that you're looking at security, something that starts in the core of the network. Putting the right products, the right technologies into the core of the network, and then expanding it outwards to your access layer. Now, there's been a lot said this idea of unified access, of wireless access and wired coming from the same vendor. That's fine. But you need to go a step further and go to something called secure unified access, that your wired access, your wireless, and your security are all tied together. So that security that you've implanted in the core is pushed out to the access layer and goes beyond that to your applications, email, web. You're using cloud technology. Can your security be extended into the cloud? Another way of looking at this is a fabric, a security fabric that is woven into the network infrastructure itself, starting at the core and then working its way out to even including to the endpoints. And a concept, a security fabric, that doesn't stop there. It's not something it's done the day you put it in. It's something that's capable of evolving as your network evolves, as the threat landscape evolves. Because we know security is not a one-and-done environment. It's something that has to keep going on a daily basis. Now, this is fine to introduce a concept like this, but what are some of the characteristics? The first one of these 5 characteristics is scalable. Now, we normally talk about scalability in terms of performance. And yes, I did mention before that performance versus security is a major issue. But scalability is more than just about performance. It's about placing the right product in the right place in the network with the right level of performance, the right level of protection at the right price. You have to scale in multiple dimensions. Not shoehorning a product into an area it's not designed for, trying to take an expensive product, bring it into a low-end application. But by satisfying those different parameters, you're still meeting the security challenge for that particular part of the network. The second characteristic is awareness, because in part, the lack of skills, the level of complexity of the networks themselves, you want this idea, this fabric, to be able to grow all on its own. If you have to spend hours configuring and bringing things together, it's defeated its purpose. As you install your solutions, you want this concept of a fabric to be built out automatically, to automatically include everything that's already in the network to the new things that you're bringing into it. Of course, it has to be secure, otherwise we wouldn't be here. And as I've mentioned already, security starts with performance. Because the days of overlaying security onto the network have to be over. We know the network itself. We can apply the concept of Moore's law to it, going from hundreds of megabits to gigabit to 10 to 40 and approaching 100. And if you're putting your security devices into that infrastructure, they have to keep up with it as well. So that's the first aspect. But we also know that with a virtual world, we have to bring security into that as well. And it's not about performance. It's about flexibility. Because cloud technology, virtualization, it is a journey. And while cloud technology requires virtualization, virtualization by itself is not cloud. So you can start there, you could stay there. But if you want to keep moving, you want to bring private cloud, you want to bring cloud technology into your own network, you want to be able to secure that virtual world in the same way that you do a physical world. And then when you're using public cloud services, to bring that same level of security with you into those environments. The next aspect of security, of course, I said, is access. And regardless of what style or what size of access, going from a branch office where you can consolidate everything together to a large-scale environment like here in the football stadium with, on match days, tens of thousands of fans, all trying to get onto the wireless network. Or down to the smallest site, you want to have a consistent security posture so that no matter how you're deploying your wireless access, you're providing the same level of security all along. Now, another key aspect is that box I just put in how is it going to maintain its efficacy, its ability to do its job over time? Because that box is static, but the threat landscape changes on a daily basis. So I need a source of threat intelligence to make sure that those devices that I'm implementing in my network are keeping up with that changing landscape. And I don't care which technology I'm talking about, firewalling, web application firewalls, email protection, even sandboxing. They have to be kept up on a constant and continuous basis. And one of the reasons for that is we want the whole network to be actionable so that no matter where an incident or an event happens in the network, because of these other characteristics, the network is working as an entity. And as long as all the pieces of it are working together properly. Nobody can promise, and if any vendor out on the show floor tells you they can absolutely promise nobody will breach your network, slap them in the face and move on to the next booth, because it's impossible. No vendor can guarantee that. What we can do, and what you should be striving for, is that when there is a breach, you need to know as quickly as possible. Prevention is absolutely necessary, but detection is just as critical. And this is where Actionable comes into play. That no matter where a breach happens, at an endpoint, bad email, compromised website, that it's detected as quickly as possible so that mitigation, the process of responding to and recovering from that data breach, can take place as quickly as possible. And then finally, open. Now, for those of you who don't know Fortinet as well as you should, we're a large company, one of the top 3 security companies in the world. We have a product portfolio that if I wanted to present it would take another hour or so. But in spite of that, in spite of having a product portfolio that's as large and as deep as it is, it's not everything. Because again, as the threat landscape changes, as the actors themselves change, the technology has to be able to keep up. So if you're constructing some sort of a solution for your network, for your enterprise, what you should be looking at are solutions that are open, meaning other technologies can be easily incorporated into it. Yes, you make strategic decisions on your vendors, but can that vendor's solution work with other vendors' products, even if they're theoretically competitive? That's the last of these 5 aspects that should be in mind when you're mapping out your strategy, not going with the improvise, but your plan, and plan. So in the end, this concept, what is it really? It's all about giving you the tools of putting a framework in place. A framework that helps you deal with the threats, maybe the ones you've inherited, the ones, what I call the legacy, but at the same time laying a foundation for those future trends, putting in a framework that brings, and maybe you haven't thought about it in this way, the threat intelligence aspect of security, that what is behind the equipment? What is the threat research that this company or my companies are capable of doing? And then finally, understanding and embracing that no one vendor has it all. So what you should be looking at is our solutions that form an ecosystem that are designed to grow from the day you put the equipment into your network till the time it reaches the end of its life cycle. I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Please feel free to come by the Fortinet booth. If any of this resonated with you, we'd be happy to give you more details. Thank you.